Tracy from Glitter Thumbs, and welcome to class. This is Cricut Explore Step-by-Step Step 6, which is creating an SVG with a color image using Inkscape. So once you're in Inkscape, you need to pull up an image that you think you want to convert to an SVG. In this case, I chose a young Anna from Frozen. Now, looking back on this, I actually would choose one with a little bit less of shading, which is a problem that we'll have with a lot of drawings, but unfortunately, this is the one I picked for now. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this YouTube tutorial. You need to pay attention to the images themselves. So what I did is I selected the image just like in the last class, and I'm going to go ahead and trace the bitmap. Now the adjustment can be changed from 45 to 90 just depending on the type of image and how much of that tracing needs to be done. But if I do that, normally it shows a preview, but in this case it didn't do it. I'm going to click on OK, and it looks pretty good to me. Now I'm going to set that aside, and you can see that black and white image that has been traced from the colored image. And from there I'm going to follow the rules just like a basic Inkscape tutorial, where I'm going to select it, path, break apart, and then I'm going to click off of the image and slowly color in each of those sections. So in this case, a face is highlighted, so I'm going to turn it that light cream color. I'm going to go ahead and select the ear if I can. The ear is going to be a little bit more difficult because of this shading, and like I said, if you just pay attention to that when you're uploading your color image, you should be okay. But in this case, it's just for demonstration purposes only. I would be doing a lot of adjustments to this SVG or this image to make sure that everything flows smoothly and that the images or layers are cut more as one piece. So you'll notice that what I'm doing from here is very basic compared to the previous uploading an SVG or creating your own SVG in the last class. I'm going to be selecting the image, zooming in as needed, and coloring those sections according to what color needs to be done. So if you notice in the eye, because of the different shading involved in this, sometimes I have to click on it and then click on another section. And like I said, from there you can go in and clean it up accordingly, as far as maybe some little extra little marks, black marks that you don't necessarily need. But all I'm doing is using that arrow up on the top left, clicking on the image. I can see that it's her lips. They're not colored in this picture, so I'm going to pick a pink and see how it looks. I might choose a different shade in the future, but right now it's just to see how everything's going to be. That's too bright, so we're going to go a little bit lighter. Now the eyebrows will not be shaded in. Because of the traced bitmap image, it's actually going to be assuming that it's a black, so we're going to skip that aside. And we're going to just assume that her eyebrows are going to be a black color. Her hair is going to be very difficult because if you look, I'm clicking on it and all it's doing is highlighting little tiny sections of her hair. So in order to get around this, for now, I'm going to draw a box around a section of her hair, and I'm going to color it orange. Now from there you can see how many little sections of orange this really is. So if I were serious about converting this to an SVG, I would actually zoom in, and then I would use the pen tool to create a union between the two oranges in her hair and create a more solid look to her hair. But while I'm doing this, it's just to show you that ultimately with these color JPEG images or whatever you choose to convert to an SVG, you don't need to do much other than trace the bitmap image just like you did with the coloring pages. Now the next class will involve creating layers already in a JPEG image. So if that's something that you want to pursue and look into, then definitely go to the next class, which should be available in a couple of days, and that will show you the basic steps as far as creating your own layers. But we will address that, like I said, in the next class itself. I would recommend picking a very basic JPEG image and trying to convert it from there into that black and white. And like I said, ultimately, this JPEG specifically is going to need a little bit of work, and specifically that hair definitely needs to be worked on. I don't want to go into Cricut Design Space and attach each individual section of hair. It's just going to be a pain. So I will go over a brief idea as to how to go about unionizing, so to speak, that little section of hair. But I'm going to focus a little bit on that dress on the left-hand side. And you can notice actually that it didn't change color. And we're going to create a union between the black outline so we can fill that in with that orange. So in there, I'm clicking on the dress, and you can see it's really difficult because all those tiny little sections in there I'm really not going to want. So I'm going to go ahead and just right click that section and delete it, because it's not worth my time to go in there and cut out all those tiny little pieces. And the same for this dress. I really wanted to color it in an orange color, and what I normally would do is maybe create a line or a block of color around that area using the pen tool and create those curves using the nodes. But honestly, it's not as important to me. So I will be going in individually to the tiny little specks throughout this drawing and selecting them and right clicking them and deleting them. But now we need to focus on her sleeve. Now for some reason when this image was traced, the program thought that that part of the sleeve needed to be cut out of the black. So that will be a separate piece as of right now. There are a few things I can do to fix that, but in the meantime all I did was click on the paint fill button and fill up that sleeve on the her left hand side. Another thing that you can do is you can fill that area with an entire black area, and then you can merge it. So if you use the pen in the sleeve, fill it with black using a box, and then change the nodes accordingly, you can actually merge it into the black background, and there would be no issue with that as well. Now down below, it didn't fill in that dress because there is a gap between the black. So if I click on the pen and I create a black line, it's more of a rectangle, and select that, I'm going to actually hold down my shift button and touch the nodes, and I'm going to be able to create a little curve. And that's what I'm doing right there. So in the last class, we learned how to create that little rectangular bridge. From here, if you click on that nodes button, which is just below the select button, hold down the shift button and touch one of those 4 nodes, you can actually create a little curve, which is nice. It kind of makes it look a little bit better. From there, click on the select button. You're going to hold down the shift button, and you're going to click on the bridge that you made. So you have the dress, you have the bridge, and you click on path and union. So from there, all I need to do is grab my little paint fill and fill that area in. Now please keep in mind that it is a white cutout of that black back layer. So in order to create that whole entire back layer to be cut out, you're going to need to fill it in and merge it as well. So that's something that we will be hopefully reviewing, or if you need to review, go back into the last class, which was the step-by-step step 5, and it shows you how to go about selecting the area and merging it to the other. So that's one thing I will recommend for this type of drawing. But if you notice that there is a gap in the black background, you're going to need to figure out how to fill that gap so that everything looks nice when you put it together, because that's what you want. So you can see here I've gone ahead and grabbed the foot, and you can see I've set it aside. Now look at the ponytail itself and look at the dress. You can see how it's cut out of the black. Now going back into the hair, there's a few things that I could do with that to make it look nice. Number one, I can fill it with a paint can color and just set that aside and then lay that on top, which I probably would do if I was in a rush. I would select the black, fill it with the paintbrush color, pick an orange, hopefully one that matches. In this case, it's a little bit lighter. And then everything around it, I would delete. Just because it's too many little pieces. Now, in order to create a nice flow in the hair, I would recommend using that pen tool and creating a union between the hair so that it's going to be 1 or 2, maybe 3 pieces, not 20 million, because that's, just too much work. And our machines are really good, but, depending on the size, obviously that'd be an issue. Now the next step in here is excluding an image, and the next class is going to cover that as well. But if you notice, the program itself thinks that it needs to cut out these black layers to create on top of her face. In order to cut those out of the cream face color, you need to select the item that you want to cut out, select the larger item that you're cutting it out of, click on Path, click on Exclusion. So we're going to do that there. Click on the nose, click on the nose, bridge of the nose, click on the face, Path, Exclusion. And you need to hold down the Shift button if you're clicking on multiple images. So that's going to be a really great way for you to see why we do it. Because why would you need all those tiny little black images if really you're going to have a black in the background? It's extra work. They're extra little cuts. So in there you can see all these tiny little images are not needed. So that's when you need to go in, right click the image after you select it, and delete. You can delete multiple images if you hold down that Shift button. Now all of this is going to take practice, but ultimately with any of these SVGs, as long as you realize that the Path button after you select the item, there are really few things that you do. You can break it apart, you can do a union which joins two pictures together, you can exclude an image, which means cut it out of the larger picture. And from there, once you got those down and you know how to create that bridge, so to speak, with that pen, you're going to be okay. It actually works really well, but it does take practice. Now that exclusion, I am going to cover as well in the next class. So in the order of the next classes for the future, you're going to be looking at Cricut Explore Step-by-Step. Step 7 is going to be focusing on excluding an image. It's a very short class. And then after that, Step 8 is going to be creating your SVGs with a color image. But this way, we're going to be creating layers. So it's going to automatically put that in for you, so you won't have to go in and manually do the layers, excuse me. It is a labor of love. But you won't need to go in and manually create those layers yourself. So I hope this helped you with importing and creating an SVG image from a color image. I apologize for this image being so complex, but hopefully you learned a little bit from it. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos. And if you feel so inclined, please visit my website at www.glitterthumbs.com. Thanks again and have a great day.